Hey gang, welcome back to the CirdecSongs channel. I am as always happy to be here. And I ask you, since you've taken the time to show up, would you please like and subscribe and share this chat that's coming forth? And please subscribe to my channel. The algorithm loves it and I love it. And you're going to love it because of my guest today. He is a wonderful musician that I picked up basically playing 6 degrees of Adrian Belew. Got from Adrian Belew to his bassist Julie Slick to her partner in crime in a band called Echotest. He's an amazing musician. He is in Latina Spain. I just like saying that, Latina Spain. He is Marco Machera. How are you doing, Marco?
I'm good. I'm good. Latina Italy, actually.
Latina Italy. Did I say Spain?
Yes,
I meant to see.
Spain. But I mean, it's
Latina
fair
Italy.
enough because Latina, makes you think about South America
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's
Spain
where
and
I went.
stuff.
That's where I went.
Yeah,
20
I
seconds
understand.
in, 20
I
seconds in, I've already mucked it up. Okay.
I
So,
I totally
Italy.
understand.
And I know
Yeah,
you're in Italy. That's the sad part. I know that, but doesn't matter.
doesn't
tell,
matter. I mean,
tell us about Latina, though, because that sounds like an interesting place to be.
it's it's definitely an interesting place, as much as it is, one could say, depressing. But um, it's a small town, but with it's not too exciting in itself, but the places around it. There's seaside, beautiful seaside,
Uh-huh.
and great mountains all around. So it has a bit of everything. Um, and Rome is not too far away, so that's a good thing. You can go to
Okay.
Rome. But yeah, I've actually moved back here last year. I was living in Brussels. I've lived there for almost 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Um, but then with my partner at the time, we decided we wanted to get back to Italy, and um, we missed Italy in a way.
Yeah, I was about to ask. Now, Brussels is in Belgium, and I know that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm gonna recover my geography skills here real
He
quick.
knows everything about geography. That was a small,
That was a
hiccup.
glitch.
Yeah,
That was
that
that
was
was
a
a
glitch.
that
Nothing.
was clearly a glitch in the matrix.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm gonna what took you to Belgium?
My partner, my ex-partner,
Okay, sure.
and actually she's from Latina as well. We met in Latina, and actually we met for the first time at an Echotest show. We played in Latina with Julie,
Okay.
a duo show, and she was there. We hooked up, and then she had to move to Brussels for work.
Ah,
And
she's
then
how
I
it works.
said, yeah, and then I said, oh well, I'll go. Let's go there, and should be fine. But then, as you can imagine, the pandemic hit, and that was
Yeah,
like very strange to be in a
yeah,
foreign place with the pandemic. And I wanted to explore the music scene as well, but that wasn't
sure.
possible
Yeah,
for the
especially during
first
that
year.
time. I was
Yeah.
going to ask you how life post COVID is the wrong word because COVID
Hmm.
still exists, but how have things been since, shall we say, the world opened up a little bit more for you? Because I know how difficult it was when everything shut down.
It's been so intense that I can't really, I don't have a real idea about that, because also I'm, aside from music, I mean, one of the things that changed with the pandemic for me personally is that I started to work more with my other job, which is translation work.
Okay.
I translate books, narrative and fiction, but also video games and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
Um, so I'm very used to work remotely in a room by myself. I'm a bit of a hermit.
Right.
uh, so there wasn't that transition. I'm When I do music, that's when I go out and play and travel. But other than that, I'm really I spend a lot of time on my own with lots of words
Right.
in front of my eyes. But definitely, I'd say the things that changed is that you can do stuff with people again, and that feels good. Especially when you that secluded as I am,
Right.
to be able to connect and do stuff and say, oh, I can play a live show now. I can do music again in front of people.
Right.
That's a very nice feeling, you know.
The sense of isolation has to be challenging. I mean, I moved to Chicago during the pandemic. I live in a city of 3 million people, and yet you could feel completely
Mm-hmm.
alone, during that time frame. That can't be easy.
That's a good observation, because I felt that in Brussels. I guess it had to do also with the fact that you're a foreigner and you're in a new
Yes.
place, and you try to connect, but it isn't easy, you know. So I felt that a lot more than when I'm here. Of course, here I know a lot of people and I have my small community, you know.
Sure, sure.
But yeah, that's a good observation. Big town, a lot of isolation. More
Yeah,
people, more isolation.
yeah. It's definitely a challenge, but it's getting better. Uh,
Yeah.
Tell us the story of your life.
Hmm.
Condensed. I know you play bass, but how did you get there? Tell us how you got into to music to start with.
I was 6 years old, I think, and I went with my parents to, my brothers. I have two older brothers.
Okay.
One is 11 years older than me, and one is 9 years older than me. And they are into music as well, very much.
Okay.
And I grew up with them listening to heavy metal, especially Iron Maiden. That was
Okay.
my
I was just about to
that,
ask who were some of the favorites.
that was my beginning. And so when I was 6 years old, my parents, um, how do you say that in English? Like they uh, brought my brothers to the concert. They accompanied my brothers,
Accompanied.
accompanied.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
sometimes I have my glitches as well.
No, it's all right. It works for me. We'll get there. It'll be fine.
So I was 6 years old, and there was this Iron Maiden show in Rome, and I went with them, and we went there quite early. It was like 5 in the afternoon, and the tour bus with the band comes in, and I was all excited because I already knew about Iron Maiden. I knew the songs, and I was looking at the tour bus, and I see Steve Harris from the tour bus window, like looking at me and showing me the tongue, like, you know. And at that moment, I said, okay, I need to be a bass player. I need to start playing bass.
Interesting way to go. I like that.
Yeah, and then it took me a few years, and it was 12 years old. My parents bought me the first bass guitar, and also because my brothers, one is a drummer, one is a guitar player. So I thought to myself, I should play the bass, and we have a
Yeah.
trio right there.
Let's say you've got an in-home power trio going,
Yeah,
going right there.
exactly.
Some people start with one instrument and switch, but you seem to have remained pretty consistent with it. What is it about the bass that appeals to you, other than being able to stick your tongue out at children?
Well, that was the very obvious answer, but other than that, I don't know. Since I was little, I was drawn to the low frequencies. I would. There's always been a lot of vinyls, LPs around the house,
Mhm.
and I remember just by putting the needle on the record, and then it would hit me on the chest. The bass.
Yes.
I probably had a good system as well to listen to those records, because I really felt it, and I found myself most of the time like really grooving to the sound of the bass, and together with the drums, I really felt a connection there.
It's a nice feeling.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
been there myself.
I just felt it physically. I could feel it in my bones and my body. I could hear the punch of the bass.
Right. Sometimes you almost think it's going to go through you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had a Machera cello experience like that
Mm,
at
mm-hmm.
a music festival outdoors. And I was walking towards her. I was in front of her bass cabinet, and I swear my heart started to go out of my back. But it
Oh
was
my God.
it's in a great way, to be certain.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
So we got Iron Maiden. Who else influenced you along the way?
Well, Rush, definitely Rush.
Not a bad bass player in that band. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely Rush. And then I had I was really into King Sex. Are you familiar
Okay,
with King Sex?
very good. Oh yeah, yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, I just reviewed them a few months ago.
Oh
Great band.
yeah. I love them. I still love to them. I still love them to this day. I was really much into heavy metal at
Okay.
first. So um, lots of lots of power metal, lots of the Germany scene. Halloween, Blind Guardian, a lot of that stuff. But then eventually I moved into progressive rock, and I started listening to Genesis. Obviously, King Crimson. King Crimson changed everything.
Yeah.
Really changed everything for me.
They have a way of doing that, of just
Yeah,
altering people's lives. Which Crimson did you discover first? Because this is always the key question. Well, which Crimson
yeah,
do you mean? Which one was first for
exactly,
you?
exactly. Which of the many Crimson?
Right.
But yeah, I'm not the first. I won't be the last. But they really were my game changer. But yeah, I also went through my jazz phase, my jazz fusion phase, listening to a lot of John Scofield, Jacko, of course, Weather Report, um, Brand X,
Yes,
um,
yes.
a lot of that, predictable names.
Oh, it's all right, man. Predictable can be good. We can hang out. And
Yeah.
still, you listen to somebody like Jocko. Do you have the moments that I have? It's just like that's impossible. There's no way I could
Yeah.
I
Uh,
could do that kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. I bought, there was a CD store, a music store, a record shop I went to, and that was my temple in Latina. I would go
Nice.
to this guy. His name was Giorgio. Um, and it was just great being there because he was always playing great music,
Yeah.
and I could just hang out in the shop and looking at records, listening to the great music, and I would ask him, what's this and what's that, and it would suggest me the great stuff, and like, oh, go home and listen to this. And
Yes.
I remember when he gave me Word of Mouth by Jaco, and then it was shocking.
Shocking
Yeah,
fits.
yeah,
Shocking
yeah,
fit.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I haven't had a chance to ask enough European musicians about the record store experience because it's one of the things I always loved, which you'd go in and they're playing the great music, and then you'd buy a particular record. And I distinctly remember buying a Genesis record and
Hmm.
having one of the guys say, "Hey, do you know Phil Collins is in another band?" And I was, "No, who is this?" And that's how I got to Brand X. I'm guessing there's a parallel experience for you.
Yeah, yeah. One thing led to the other all the time, and I really loved that connection, with that human connection. Where, I mean, I sound like I'm very old, but
I turned 57 a couple of days ago, pal. So you still you still got
I
a couple of days
yeah,
before you can catch up to me. So
yeah, yeah. But that was I think I'm part of that generation that could experience that still. I
yeah,
guess it still happens. If you go to some boutique stores, I would go to some very nice record shop in Brussels, where you still have that kind of connection
yeah,
with
yeah.
the people there, and they suggest you stuff. But yeah, that's a really great feeling.
And it's a lot better than being guided by an algorithm because you can't see the passion in an
Yeah,
algorithm.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
I I've been this way since I was 12.
Hmm.
I've been listening since I was 6, but since I was 12, I would bring friends over and you got to check this out. You got to
Yeah,
hear this thing.
yeah, totally, totally. I would do that as well. I would pass the records on to my friends, and I noticed even now sometimes I do a workshop that it's called Out of the Box,
Okay.
and it's really amazing to see how if you just go to some kid and tell him, okay, go to, I don't know, Spotify, YouTube, and search for that song, for that artist. It's very hard that they would do that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
spontaneously. They would, as soon as they got home, they probably forget about that. But if you really talk about something passionately and let you, maybe hear some tracks from the record and talk about the musicians and what that record means to you and stuff like that, they would immediately get more interested.
Right. Right. Right.
Um,
Plus,
I
you can
noticed that
hold up the album cover and they can see the art.
exactly. Also, that
That
they
gets you
can touch
excited.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
You talk about the standard fusion bands we talk about. That's how my dad got me with Return to Forever. He held up the cover
Hmm.
to Romantic Warrior, and I'm like, well, what's this? He said, well, you think the cover's interesting? Check out the music. And next thing you know, you're obsessed. I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick. You were into Crimson. Which Crimson band grabbed you first? Which rendition?
Oh well, that's an interesting question because that record store guy I was telling you earlier, I was really drawn into Crimson, and I didn't know why yet. I didn't listen to them yet, and I knew I had to listen to Crimson, and I did read something about the different lineups, and I was really excited by the lineup with the '80s lineup with Levin, Belew, Bruford, and
Yeah.
Fripp. But the record store guy would tell me, you have to start with In the Court of Crimson King. But that was one of the times that I really ignored the advice and I went into Discipline. I went straight into Discipline.
my kind of guy.
Yeah. And that was again shocking, that the first few listens, I was scared. I was like, what the fuck am I listening to? I never heard anything like that.
Yeah, that's the
But
appropriate attitude.
but then but then in a couple of days time I was really into it. I really understood it. That really opened my mind and I was obsessed. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was,
it's
so I'd say the Discipline lineup for me, yeah, it's really important.
again, we're two peas in a pod, and
Yeah.
if you're like me, once I heard that band, so much of what I already had in my collection became irrelevant because it was just like I'm going to go
Yeah,
this way now because this stuff is
yeah,
it's
it really, the parameters were really, they went all over the place. I was like, oh
yeah,
wow.
yeah,
um,
and from that family tree, the places you can go because
oh,
Tony was in with
exactly.
Peter Gabriel and because Bill had his own band and now you can get into Jeff Berlin because of that band and what have you and it just branches out in so many different ways.
Yeah, speaking of that, one other very important artist for me, and that I found because of Crimson, is David Sylvian,
Oh yeah,
because
yeah.
of the connection with Fripp, and then Sylvian led to, oh my God, so many different worlds. I got into David Thorne, and I found out about ECM, and I
Yes.
found out about Mark Isham, and Japan, and Richard Barbieri, and all the
Next,
good
next
stuff.
thing you know, your bedroom is just buried with LPs and what have you, and
Yes,
you're
yes,
getting yelled at to clean up your room because all the vinyl's everywhere. But that's
yes,
always
yes.
that's always a fun thing. Um, you wound up in Echotest
Hmm.
because was it because of Three of a Perfect Pair camp, or, or
Yeah.
where did you meet Julie?
So yes, we actually met at Tree of a Perfect Pair camp. Um, but then the real game changer was when in 2014 she was touring with Crimson Project in
Okay.
Europe,
Yep.
and they were touring a lot that year. And she was in Europe, and she had a gap in between dates. I
Right.
think a couple of weeks gap. And at the time, Julie was a nomadic gypsy.
Yes, I remember
So
that.
she thought, I'm on tour all the time. It doesn't make sense that I pay rent in the U.S., which is a very brave thing to do. I would
It
never be
is.
able to do that.
Yeah, even if you're never
Uh,
there, it's still nice to have some place to land.
exactly. But she's Julie, she's
Yeah.
capable of that and many other things. And she made a post on Facebook saying, "Listen, I am in Europe and I have 2 weeks gap in between dates with Crimson Project. Anyone is up for music, doing music together and doing live shows and recordings or whatever, I'm available." And I'm reading that, and light went on in my head and said, I should do something. And I reached out and proposed, let's do something. I'm a bass player as well.
Mm.
Let's do something again out of the box. Let's do something different. Let's do a double bass duo or something. And she
Okay.
was into that, because she said she got requests from guitar players and drummers, but it was very my request was kind of unusual, and that grabbed her attention. And she knew me a bit, she knew, to use her words, she knew I wasn't a creep or anything like that.
That's always a plus.
Exactly. So and I offered, I could offer a couple of gigs in Tuscany, and she was like, "Whoa, wow, Tuscany, I could, that's a good deal."
That's good incentive. Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, we met. I don't know. I don't remember the exact time frame, but that was very. I think it was just a few months after the post, so it was very quick
Okay.
and organic. And we met in Bologna, where I was at the time, and we just started writing music. It wasn't just jamming or something like, "Oh, we play some of my tunes and we play some of your tunes," and no, we just started writing together, and that was the good thing about it.
That is interesting because a lot of
Yeah.
groups don't necessarily start that way, especially when you're dealing with two bass players. So you propose a double bass project in your head. And this is a two-pronged question here because I was going to
Mhm.
ask you earlier, how do we define the Marco Machera sound,
Mm.
and how does that integrate itself within the confines of Echotest, where there are two bass players?
Yeah, very good question. Um, when I proposed this to Julie, you know, I was very familiar with Julie and the way she plays. So I knew she was using a lot of effects and the six strings, the bass six.
Yes.
So I thought, how can I find my space in there? Because to me, music is a lot about carving out space out of frequencies and energy and sounds. So I thought I'm going to go with a more of a traditional approach, and I won't have many effects. I won't use a lot of pedals. I'll focus on getting the sound physically out of the bass and experimenting with prepared bass techniques. Like using objects into put objects into the strings, like pencils, or wrapping the strings with um, some kind of paper, and use and
Hmm.
get a certain sound. Um, so that was my approach at the beginning. Echotest at the beginning was I guess way more experimental, radical. Maybe that's a
Yes.
better word.
Yes.
Um, because I would go that way, like a prepared free improv approach to the bass, like I don't know, Arthur Lindsay on guitar, and
Okay.
something that he would do, or Keith Rowe, and that kind of Derek Bailey, that kind of school of improvisers from Britain.
Right.
And Julie was more on the effects side. So that was the first thing. But as time went on, and we became more of a songwriting partnership, like a songwriting duo with time, it felt very much, it felt more natural, like we overlap. Sometimes I'm more of the bass player, and I hold the bass, like the root notes, and I'm on the low frequencies on the 5 strings a lot, the 5th string a lot. And she's more on the high frequency range, but sometimes we switch, so now it's very organic, and it's you can tell, sometimes you can tell who's doing which, and makes it for an interesting challenge.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing, though. When did you know? I mean, you guys walked in composing, but when did you really know that you had the right level of chemistry?
That's the good thing. That was very immediate, because we had a few days to prepare something for the shows in Tuscany when we first met, and we had no idea, like what we were going to play. So we thought, okay, we'll probably improvise a lot, but then, as I told you before, we just started writing like that, and the very first song we wrote was 1986, which is on for dementia.
Yes.
um, and that's the year we were born, so that's very meaningful, way to put it. The first song, that's really us. uh, but yeah, that was immediate. We felt it right away, and we had a record like in a month's time or something.
That's not bad. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
bad at
yeah.
all. And I have to give you grief for saying you feel old when you were born in 1986. Oh, hush it. just,
I know.
just hush it for crying out loud. But, we would be remiss if we didn't discuss that you have a new project coming out.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
don't you tell the boys and girls about your new project?
It's my new record. It's called it has an Italian title. Um and I know I should know better, but the right pronunciation for the title is Dormiveglia, which is
Uh-huh.
it isn't an easy it ain't easy for a non-Italian speaker, I guess. But
I'm gonna have to practice. I know that much.
yeah. But yeah, it's Dormiveglia, which is a very specific word. Um, and I decided to go with this Italian word because you don't have um, the same concept. I mean, the same word in English. I think, at least. So Dormiveglia is that space before you fall asleep, where you in between,
Ah,
reality and almost getting there, almost getting asleep, almost falling
okay.
asleep. And that's a very interesting space for me, where I was very very inspired by the Belgian artist René Magritte
Okay.
and surrealism and all that wave of Belgian artists. And yeah, it's my first solo record in a while. It's been 6 years now since the last one, the latest one. So I took my time, definitely.
Yeah. Well, you got to pace yourself.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. That's an interesting concept, right in between. I would almost call that pre-REM
Yeah,
sleep, right there.
exactly. Pre-REM. Yeah.
That that is something I have never really thought about. How does that relate musically? Does it come from chord changes? Does it come from melodies? Does it come from effects? Where does that kind of thing come from?
Uh, as usual, in my case, it has very much to do with uh, it all comes down to ideas, really, and having a concept, um, I don't mean that I set out and say, okay, this record is going to be about this, and I'm gonna
Right, right,
write about this, and this is gonna sound like that, But I like to some. What happens is that I might find something, I might stumble upon something. I might read, or I might watch a movie, or I might listen to a record, and say, oh wow, there's a very interesting element in there that I'd like to, you know, take out from that experience and magnify or something. And that's how it all starts for me. So I did read about Magritte and the way he painted, thinking about the dreamlike state and dreams, and I consciously started exploring more of that area in my daily routine. I would find myself like daydreaming and being conscious about it, and say, oh wow, that was very interesting. I saw a few things there I could write down, uh, and then put music to this, and I was very drawn to the idea of how do I translate this dreamlike state into music, with music. And I feel like if you listen to the record, it comes across. It's a very reflective record, I guess, soothing. Um, I was really interested in creating an experience,
I got you. Yeah, that does
Yeah.
sound interesting. Now, how difficult is it for you to share that vision with other musicians and have them have them translate what it is you're looking for?
Yeah, that's very challenging. Also because what what I usually do is that I have some demos, and if I have the lyrics already, I'll send also the lyrics and say, I've done this, um, and I tell them about the concept a little bit, like this record is about this, but I don't want to impose anything on the musician. So I'll say, this is what I've done. Now you just react to this.
Okay.
Uh, and usually, um, I really trust the musician enough that um, I'm sure they'll do brilliantly. It's very rare that I get some material back and I feel like this isn't right. Also because when I write the music, I feel like I don't know, Julie would sound great on this, or Pat. I'm sure Pat Mastelotto would add great stuff to this one. So I have an idea already, and when I tell them, I don't have to explain much.
Right, right. And it's nice to be able to have those that level of musicianship on speed dial. So
Yeah,
so to speak.
I'm very very lucky. I'm very lucky. Yeah.
You're planning on taking this on the road, I'm assuming, the new record.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's very difficult. But my idea is to do a few shows when it's really worth it. I'm playing a couple of shows next week. One is an opening for Stickman in Rome,
Uh-huh.
and that's clearly worth it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd say so.
Yeah,
There's a little talent on that stage. Yeah, so that
very nice venue, and it makes sense also because Tony and Pat are both on the record, so there is a connection there.
right.
It's not like I don't feel like I'm imposing myself on someone else's concert. Um, and yeah, I guess I'll just it's me and two other guys, and there's Alessandro Inolti who also plays drums with Echotest.
Uh-huh.
and there's Eugene that plays electronics and synthesizers. So, but it's still my project. So when we go out on the road, I like to have good conditions, that everything is fair for everyone,
Sure.
and that we're not just losing money and stuff like that. So it's very complicated, but yeah, I hope to do more shows next
That would be
year,
great.
maybe.
People don't grasp how difficult touring can be. They think
Yeah.
you just pile in a bus or hop on a plane and you go here and there and you're making tons of money at gigs after gig after gig, and it's just not that way at all.
No, you lose money all the time. Basically, you just you try to make everything ends meet, but it's an investment all the time, and you do it when you feel like it's safe for you to do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've amazed people because they don't think about things at just a basic level.
Mm-hmm.
Guitars are not cheap.
No.
The amplifiers are not cheap. The cable that runs between the guitar and the amplifier is not cheap.
Yeah.
But you need.
I mean, to me, it's always unfortunately, it's always a struggle making this record. Even it took also a long time because I really had some kind of idea in mind that requires um, good people and good people. I really value the work of other people.
Sure.
So I feel like I want this record to sound very good. I should get a very good sound engineer. I want to pay him the right amount of money.
Also not
Um,
cheap.
exactly. I want to record the drums in a specific room. Okay, I'll pay that, but you need time to gather the money um, and of course, it's not all about money.
But
It's
it
also
doesn't
about,
hurt.
yeah, but I like to have the good conditions for everyone involved. It takes time, and it takes. I was lucky because I got the help of a very nice collective in Mexico City.
Uh-huh.
28 Arte Colectivo, which is led by Julia Zenteno, who's another great musician. And they helped a bit with the funds, with the funding of the record and stuff like that. So, but it's a hard work, but it makes me happy because I feel like I'm getting other people involved, and they're great, and I'm feeling like this is good for everyone involved and not just myself.
Right. Right. Makes sense. You said earlier about like opening for Stickman, and you don't want to feel like, and I'm paraphrasing here, you don't want to feel like you're imposing yourself on
Mm-hmm.
them. And that's actually an interesting thought process because there are certain musicians, be it a Pat or a Tony or an Adrian Belew or somebody like that, where you feel they've attained a certain level, and you have to wonder when your level of musicianship is, at least for lack of a better phrase, worthy of their time and effort. When did you feel like you'd reached that stage?
uh,
Or do you feel like you've reached that stage?
I have very low self-esteem.
That seems common in musicians.
Yeah.
Well, I correct myself. It seems common in musicians, not so much in rock stars, and there's a difference.
Yes. I guess, yeah, that's a good way to put it. I'm I don't mean it in a bad way. I know my values and I know my strengths. But also at the same time, um, I know how hard I work to get to that level, and I never take it for granted. So um, yeah, I would never feel like I can't say I feel like I'm worth it, but
Right.
um, but if Pat and Tony are happy, Marcus, and I know when they see me, they seem to be happy and say, "Oh, nice that you're here tonight and playing the show before us," and gives me a very nice feeling, makes me feel like, wow. There are many times when I feel like I should quit, but when you get to live those moments, then you realize, okay, I'm okay, I'm doing stuff right.
It's all worthwhile
Yeah,
when all said
exactly.
and done, regardless of how you feel about yourself. Golf comes to mind when I think about that. I'm horrible at golf, but every round you hit that one shot, and we call that the comebacker. Okay, I'm okay. I can do this
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I get these moments from time to time. It's a very difficult life, and I'm not the first, I guess, telling you this, but you get those moments like, I got a very nice email one time um, from a fan in Germany saying, your record Dime Novels really helped me in a very tough time. My father was ill, and I would listen to your record every day going to the hospital. And I was like, wow,
Wow.
this is even too much to process sometimes. Or the fact when you realize that some of your music is being played in Japan, in a radio station in Japan. I didn't know it. I just found out a few days ago that Yukihiro Takahashi from Yellow Magic Orchestra played one of my songs in the radio in Japan, like one of
Wow.
the biggest radios in Japan, and I didn't know it. I just found out the other day because I was promoting the album on Twitter, and a few older posts came about, and I was like, "What the hell?" Yukihiro, who was one of my heroes. I'm very sad that he's passed away. Like Yuriichi Sakamoto,
Mhm.
really, I'm really saddened to this day. But when you think about that, stuff like that happens, wow, it really makes it worthwhile, you know.
Yeah, it's good for the ego, which
Yeah,
even musicians need that because
yeah, yeah,
rock stars have ego to spare, but musicians need that little
exactly.
musicians need that little boost. What's the best part for you in terms of playing? Where does the magic happen most often for you? Is it in the studio? Is it on the stage? Is it somewhere in between? Where does it feel right most often?
I'm very much a studio guy. I really like crafting, the parts and recording, arranging, producing. I really feel like a producer most of all. Um, and I'd say that, touring and playing live is not that appealing to me. Um, but when the magic happens on stage,
Hmm.
then it changes everything. It feels like, wow, this is my home, this is my place, and the connection with the people. When there are very specific nights and live shows when that happens, um, where it really feels great. But yeah, most of all, I'm a studio guy. I really like being in the studio and creating and writing and recording. Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I like asking musicians, is there ever a moment, and for you especially since you like the recording process, is there a moment when you've recorded something and you go back and you sit in the control room and you listen and you think to yourself, oh, I'm good? Or does that ever happen, or do you just kind of accept what took place and hope for the best?
Well, as I said before, it has a lot to do with my self-esteem.
Yeah.
So I guess I would never go like, wow, I'm very good. I'm good. That's not myself at all. But yeah, there are moments when I listen to a song that I've recorded and I can't stop, and that's a very good thing. Like I listen to it again and again and think to myself, well, I don't think like I'm good. I think this song is very good.
Okay,
You know,
that
I
makes
feel like
sense. That makes sense. You're
this song is very cool. You know.
you're just the vessel that brought the
Yeah, exactly. I'm just
that just
there.
brought the song to life. Because
Exactly.
I've wondered about that. When Radiohead was creating OK Computer or when Crimson was creating Discipline or so back, they sat back and they went, "Wow, what did we just do?" that's
Yeah, I wonder.
We're gonna have to ask that question more often. But I'm almost ready to let you off the hook. What's in your future? What do you see going on down the road, or what's your plan? Let's put it that way.
I don't like to plan too far ahead, but I would love to play more shows promoting this new record. Of course, for sure, I would love to do
Sure.
that. And definitely, I would love to see Julie again and do more shows with Julie again. Well, I guess we'll do something next year. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming up. I work as a translator, as I said earlier, and I'm working. I guess it's almost confirmed, but I'm trying to translate in Italian a Tony Levin's book, Beyond the Bass Clef. Are you
Uh,
familiar with that book
oh
from
yeah, I have a
98?
copy sitting right over there on my shelf. Yeah.
I want to translate that into Italian and give new life to that book. And Tony has agreed on that. So I see myself, as usual, dividing my time between translation work and music. And there's new Echotest music in the works as well. There's always new Echotest music in the works. So
Excellent, excellent.
yeah,
I was sitting here thinking the man has a day job, and that's the other reality of
yeah.
modern music. You don't get to make a living out of just playing music all the time. And I understand that.
It's a choice. It comes down to being a choice. I tried. I was a full-time musician for a long while, but I was struggling a lot, and not only financially. I was struggling with the idea. I was playing a lot of music that I didn't like.
Ah, okay.
I was saying yes to things I would say no normally.
Yeah,
So I
because
decided,
a paycheck's a paycheck, so you got to.
yeah, but it wasn't healthy for me. So I decided, okay, I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'll do something else, and I'll do the music I really like and do the projects I really like.
I can certainly relate on a
Mhm.
slightly different level, but eventually you've had enough. You have
Yeah,
to move on to the next thing. I tell people all the time that one of my favorite quips, and I hope I'm accurate, when Michael Stipe broke up REM, he said the most important thing about going to a party is knowing when to leave.
yeah,
and
exactly.
that's
I totally relate. Yeah.
yep. As soon as I said, I was like, yeah, that's perfect.
I'm
All
off.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. All right, my friend, take a minute and plug yourself shamelessly. Where can we find your music?
The best way is visiting my website, marcomachera.com. It contains all the info in there and all the links, all the useful links, and I keep a very nice old-fashioned blog where I share my musical endeavors and whatnot. And I also have Bandcamp. This new record is not on Bandcamp because it's published by a different label, and
Ah, okay.
they use different channels. But all my other stuff is on Bandcamp. Um, and of course, I'm on the dreadful streaming services, but I'm in there as well.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the way of the world these days. That's just
yeah, yeah.
kind of the way it goes.
Hmm.
I understand. Okay, well, I appreciate the time, and I learned that not only do I not know where Latina is, even though I was told, but, but now I've been pronouncing your last name not quite right. Machera is the way you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's fine. Yeah, I'm used to it.
It's so American to use a soft ch. That's
Yeah, yeah.
I blame
No
myself.
problem. It's okay. I mean, I with Julie, we joked a lot about this. And are you familiar with the Marco Machete guy?
That does ring a
Marco
bell.
Machete.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had this whole character of myself dressing up as Marco Machete, because they would get my name wrong all the time in the US.
Plus, it opens up a whole new gimmick. It
Yeah,
almost fits in with the Iron Maiden mindset if you think
yeah.
if you think about it. If you think about it. But I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. See if I
No,
can.
thank you for doing this.
I'll try to get this right. Mille grazie.
Yes, good, good.
If I'm close on that one,
Mille
but
grazie. Yeah,
yeah,
good,
we will
good, very
we
good.
will I won't tell you where I picked up my Italian accent because
Okay, okay.
it's too stereotypical.
I won't ask. I won't ask. Let's leave it like that. Let's leave the mystery.
We'll leave it there and
Yeah.
we'll go forward from there. I really appreciate it. We hope we can talk to you down the road again soon. And everybody, let's make sure we check out this man's new music and make his life good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cedric. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.